We are also live on Ummah Connected. We are streaming live on Facebook, on Zoom, and on YouTube. Tonight, inshallah, we shall be talking about remarrying people that you are actually married for, married to before, but then divorced. Sometimes they are referred to as boomerang couples. People who have been in relationships and then something happens along the way, you break up. Quite often it happens with younger marriages when people are just still very excitable and excited, and uh, you divorce. It may be for a number of reasons. Every divorce is different depending on where it comes from. We thank, first of all, God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the gift of life from last week into today. And I welcome you all who have spared your time to come and have this, be part of this global community conversation. Tonight, we're talking about another aspect. It's almost turning into a relationship program. But if you realize how much relationships sit and weigh on our lives, on our daily lives, then probably you do appreciate why so many people would be concerned about, something like this, why they would take interest in coming in to listen to conversations along these lines. Many people, we fall in love and we fall out of love. In the process, a lot of things happen. There are times when you get married, you're very young, you just finished university, you are all really up, very ambitious in your lives. The woman, the man, all ambitious to push their particular careers forward. And then along the way, you get misunderstandings, and these misunderstandings now push you to go your separate ways. Sometimes it's actually the result of, say, a pregnancy. It might be that because when a woman becomes pregnant, her body metabolism, the manner in which she responds, the manner in which she acts, suddenly starts changing. That can affect the relationship, especially if both parties are working. Husband is working, wife is working. The amount of pressure that this brings to bear on the two parties can actually have some disastrous effects. As a result, if you fail to be able to deal with the situation, the next thing is you just end up going apart. There are some relationships that have broken up as a result of that. There are times when career could be one part, but two might actually be the children themselves. You get married, but probably you didn't discuss the issue of children. And out of the blue, you've come in, you are deeply in love. The next thing is your wife is pregnant. The pregnancy brings tension because you're not ready to have a child, but she's already pregnant. How do you deal with that? Some people are not very good at dealing with situations. The next thing that happens is you end up breaking up. That could be one reason. There may be other reasons as to why people break up. I was actually, when I was thinking about this particular topic, I took the Islamic view, and the first person that came to mind was Dr. Abdul Hafiz Warusimbi, who in his Sharia explanations, really, he's already running every Tuesday at 4:30 Uganda time, which will be 2:30 UK time. He's begun running a series on Zoom, on Facebook Live, on the fiqh of marriage. A lot of times, a lot of issues that have come up have raised issues regarding issues that have not been dealt with, the lack of preparation on both parties. Oftentimes, women being much more prepared than men are, and then ending up in those relationships. But his approach, I think, was sort of felt for me that in this particular topic, after I thought about the Quran and the Sharia and where it has provided, because you look in the Quran, and God is talking about divorce, an entire chapter, 3-4 different chapters where Allah has dedicated the element of divorce in a relationship. And in that, one of the chapters, he refers to the chances that are given to a couple. You have the first chance, you divorce your wife. When you divorce your wife, Islamically and surprisingly, even here in the West, unless there is a case of domestic violence, you stay in the house. You are dealing with your divorce, but you live in the same house, you live in the same roof. Islamically, you have to provide for your wife. You give them food, you give them clothing, you do everything that you have been doing. The only thing that you don't do that maintains the issue of divorce is having conjugal relations or having sex. The moment you have sex, your divorce falls apart. You can no longer be divorced because the consummation of marriage is the actual act of having sex. So if you do in Sharia, within those 3 months, the woman, for example, the idea that was placed there by Allah who knows best. Imagine your wife, a person you have known, you have just probably separated rooms to be able to live in that kind of situation where you are referring to yourselves as divorced. You go, you live in a separate room and she's living in a separate room. But she's going to the bathroom, she's bathing, she's tying her towel the way she used to do. Now all the electricity wires are available. What are the chances that within 3 months, for a person that you've lived and loved, you would fail to get any feeling coming into you? That's the logic. And in case you just go to them and have sex, divorce becomes invalid. So in Islam, you're given the chance to divorce the woman once, then after her 3 months period, or within the period of 3 months, if you get back together, then you need, I just have, Isma needs to have a co-host on the second computer, I think, to be able to plug the clips, because I think we are ready, and I'd like us to start with the clips because that will provide a room. Again, we can bring in Dr. Hafid because it's a bit late in Kampala, and then I will let him go. If he stays, I'm sure he might enjoy the conversations going on, but at least we'll know that we've had him. So I was saying that in that instance, if you lose the person the first time, you divorce, they go there, you stay with them, you get back together, you divorce second time, you divorce third time. When you divorce the third time, in Islamic Sharia, you are not allowed to be again with this woman until and unless she goes out, she marries another man, and then by sheer chance, that other man now divorces her. And then if you're still in the feelings, in the moods, then you are able to come now and be able to marry her. That is serious love. But Sharia has, made room for that, in which case, therefore, it helps to provide room for negotiation for people being together. It shows how bad divorce in its own would be. But therefore, everything should be done in that perspective. So I was looking at that and saying, God is already looking ahead to this. What would stop two people, two consenting adults, if they so wished, if they decided that their problems have been resolved, for them to get back together? That's the foundation. And then I started looking around myself, and I realized one of my grandmothers, as I was saying to those who arrived early, she got married to my grandfather, had 4 children. After having the 4 children, she divorces my granddad, or my granddad divorces her. She goes out, gets married, has 4 other children, in that new relationship, and then divorces there, and then comes back to end her life with my granddad. In fact, she outlives him by almost 20, 30 years. He died in 1983. She's just died 3 years ago. Now, she came back and stayed, her children had already, of course, grown up, my mother and, others. And seeing that was even possible, then you start asking, how much love could there be that this person can come back and then live, and then, they live happily ever after? There might be certain secrets that we don't know. When you come back to a person that you have known, probably they know you best. And that's the reason I wanted us to play these clips for starters. If you're ready, please just flag the clips as they follow each other. We just watch these, and that will help inform our conversation. It might be that actually you know history like you do. In fact, back in my own family, another situation actually happened. Wife comes, gives birth to one child, goes away, marries almost 30 years later. She's gone there, had 4, 5 kids, comes back here, gives birth to another child, who is the child, one of the Bagarandas in the family. 30 years later, is there a spark that was left? Now, this latest research, I think, which has been the basis of this conversation tonight. The latest research by Co-op Legal Services has found that 75%, that is 3/4 of couples who divorced, who were married at once and divorced, show that they have the urge, the possibility, they look at the possibility of getting reunited again. 75%. That's quite a huge number. And that informed partly the decision to have this conversation tonight. 2, of these 75%, 40% actually admit that they are still in love, or they still love, they have strong feelings for the people they broke up with. 40% of the three-quarters of people. Beyond that, 13% have taken it beyond just the thinking, the feeling. They have gone back and remarried. And one of these instances this week has been, of course, Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez getting back after 17 years to get married. So tonight, we shall be, as usual, having the conversation around what could have led to this. What are the provisions? If you are going to go back to another man, to the very man that you are married to in the first instance where you thought it didn't work in the first instance, what could happen? What could he have done right? What would you have to think about before you get back to this person? Because that's the only way now to create the strength of the new relationship. If you've learned anything, that's what you're carrying into the new relationship. Isma, if you're ready, please. I'm ready. So just to let you know, this is Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira. We are live on 75 W Radio. We are live on Ummah Connected. We are live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Zoom, where this conversation is taking place tonight. Remember, if you have any views, you can always just plug it in the chat room, and then we can do. This was a program that was run a few years back, but it was on the ITV Good Morning, and it was looking at this sudden rise in this, and the numbers have been growing since that time. There's just a trend, but all of a sudden now the trend is raising. So it looks like, Isma, you are ready. When you are, I've seen some new people actually who have joined us. Christine Wesige, all the way from the United States of America. You are very welcome. Very happy to see you in the conversation. Laila Narvega in Kampala, Ramzi Kojo, Haj Babe, Hajjatuda, Huawei. I don't know who Huawei is, but they've got Huawei. There's P30 and Mediamat. And Masi, Hanifa, NK, Raz, Nifa Kasuja, as usual. Okay, Ismail, if you're ready, Ismail Mugisha and Sheikh Abdul Qadir Kawoya on the program, and Mariam. Joy Mutesi Muko Visazge, very, very welcome. Let's have a look at those two clips back to back, Bwana Isma. So once we finish this, let's watch the second one, and then we'll open the conversation. Go to Dr. Hafiz to get the Sharia perspective, and then we'll open the conversation up as we do. Everyone here is not just a guest, you are a participant, you are part of the story. So don't be surprised if I just click onto you and ask you to share if you have any experiences or your own takeaway. Isma, we are ready when you are. The sound is not on. Isma, the sound, yeah. The sound is playing up. I've seen on Masi. Masi is also a new. I notice it's easy to notice new people in the conversation very quickly. Hajara, I've seen you. iPhone Zoom user Najib, me love, and Ali. When you are ready, we are Isma. And just to let you know, of course, if you have any views, any strong feelings on anything, just in the chat room. Sometimes some people are just shy, or you may be at work where you are unable to speak, comfortably. You can just drop your point in the chat room, please. And if I call upon you and you're probably at work, just flag it in the chat room so that we can know that we're unable to speak. But other than that, we'll be coming to you and trying to get your view. It'll be very interesting, probably. It might be that actually you're in a situation where you've just divorced, and then suddenly you realize there are particular values with the person you divorced, and what if chance was to come? What if an opportunity was to, avail itself? What would that opportunity be? What sort of conditions probably would you set for the person? It might be that in a moment of anger, you just broke up, but then after which you sit back and you think maybe it's time to give it another chance. Isma, we are just waiting for you. Whenever you are ready, inshallah, we'll just play those clips. And these two scenarios, I think, will sort of paint the picture. And I was persistent because otherwise we'd just have broken into the conversation. But I'm thinking once we have these clips, they'll help lay, especially when you hear the sort of reasons that people have when they get into these kind of situations. Like I said, tonight we have got a scholar, Dr. Abdul Hafiz Warusimbi, who will take us just to look at the Sharia perspective in terms of remarrying. Should there be grounds? Are there grounds that we can actually not remarry? Because you might think that between yourselves, you think you have worked it out, but the conditions within Islamic law do not allow you, do not permit you. There are those grounds. And let me not preempt it. I think it would be good just to hear from Dr. when he comes on. Isma, are we still struggling with the sound? Isma, you can unmute yourself and talk to us. All right, looks like probably finally we are there. Like I said, this is a program that was run on ITV Good Morning, and yeah, ready for you.
So, with news today that Phil Collins is to remarry his ex-wife, new research has shown that the number of boomerang couples who divorce and then reunite is on the rise.
Well, according to the study, more than a quarter of divorcees consider reigniting their flame with their estranged partner, and more than 40% admit to still loving their ex.
Well, this could not be more true for our next couple. 10 years after they divorced, Martin Copland and ex-wife Julie Minter decided they wanted to get married again, and they join us now. And this really is a lovely, lovely story. The first time you met, 98, bit of a whirlwind romance. You married quite quickly after 6 months, and to begin with, everything was lovely. But then life got in the way, and you both sort of lived together, but it was more of an existence. What went wrong, do you think, back then?
You pick that one up.
Okay, well, we were both very busy with our careers, so I was travelling all over the world. Martin was travelling all over the world with his job with the government. We never saw each other. I'd come home and drop my briefcase at the doorwell, and he would be walking out, catching another flight.
Yeah.
So we just really never saw each other, and absence doesn't make the heart grow fonder. No. So you really do start to grow apart. And when you're younger, you realise that, you know, you think your career is the most important thing. As you get older, you start to realise that each other is the most important thing.
So finally, I mean, you both come to the mutual arrangement, understanding that this is not working, and we should go our separate ways.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you stayed very close.
We always stayed in touch, that's right. We were on the phone to each other. When we had other partners, we were always ringing each other to moan about them. And Julie even came around and decorated my house for me. So
how are your other partners about that going on?
not great.
They weren't
Not
happy.
great.
It doesn't make it very hard for other partners.
Well, you went to Texas and married a cowboy.
Yeah, well, engaged actually, yeah.
Cowboy's a bit strong. He was a ranch owner.
Right.
Yeah, no, I know.
That sounds much more impressive.
Yeah,
So you went, but I mean, you were really going down the road of starting a new life with somebody, somebody different.
Absolutely.
What changed? What was it?
Well, then I had some health issues in Houston, and I realised the only person I wanted in the world was Martin. He knew how to handle things in a crisis. And I thought, if I've only got 6 to 12 months of my life left, then who do I really want to spend that time with?
And the person that you were with over there, you said, wasn't...
He was useless. I hope he's not watching this. Maybe not in Houston, but he was absolutely useless.
He's the next guest.
All right. You got more.
So you flew out to Texas and you went and got your woman.
Yeah, there's a bit of story behind that. I was actually on a charity hike to Peru, and the first voicemail I heard when I got off the plane was Julie. And within 3 days, I was flying out there. I had no doubts in my mind whatsoever.
That you wanted to be
That I
together.
wanted to be
But this wasn't, I mean, to begin with, because obviously you'd been married, divorced, now back together, you didn't want to tell everybody straight away.
No.
So why was that? Why did you not want to come back from Texas and spread the good news that you were back together?
We actually dated in private for a year, because you can appreciate when you split up with someone or you split up with your husband or your wife, people judge. Family, friends will make their own decisions.
The battle lines get drawn.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you realise who your true friends are. And what you begin to realise is, you know, you end up with a very small pool of friends at the end of the day. And you just really then, you know, that's important, your very closest friends. So we wanted that year.
That people, as you hinted at then, when a couple breaks up, the sides are taken, and then you end up with your mates saying, well, this was the right thing. He was never right for you.
Exactly.
You end up with your mates saying the same sort of thing.
Never liked her.
Oh, God! She was never any good for you. True! She was never any good for you.
So at what point did you decide a year down the line that you were actually going to let them in on this big secret?
We had to feel it was the right thing for us, and obviously we pretty quickly come to that decision, but we had to be absolutely certain that that decision would be welcomed by our friends and family as well. Yeah. And it was.
And did you think maybe because you'd got married the first time it didn't work out, that maybe you should just be together and that you didn't need to get married again?
Not really. I mean, it was a funny thing, though. Years ago, I always knew when we got divorced that we'd grow old together. I always saw an image of us old. I had that vision. Yeah.
So after the divorce?
After the divorce. And I didn't know how it was going to work out. But life was lucky that we were able to get back together again.
Absolutely.
So you remarried?
Yes.
And did the same people come to the wedding?
Quite a few of them,
Yeah.
yes.
But we didn't-
Obviously, we got new friends by then as well as our friends and family from the first wedding. And they get to have more cake, don't they? So.
Did you kept the same wedding bands?
We did actually. So
We did.
because I proposed the second time round, it was my turn.
Right.
I actually ended up buying my own engagement ring. So I got a trilogy ring. So I've got 3 diamonds this time. We kept the same wedding band. So it was,
I love the story of your proposal. You decided to take the initiative.
it was my turn.
The first time, though, it didn't quite go to plan, did it? Wasn't it on a climbing wall?
Yeah, so my plan was to actually put the proposal up the top of a climbing wall for Martin. When I saw him get halfway up and absolutely bottle it,
And I was just swinging.
and he was just
like that.
dangling from the climbing wall, I thought that's not my best idea. So
Yes.
then I had to do plan B.
Your proposal was at the top.
It was a
Yeah.
piece of paper written with the proposal, Martin, will you marry me? But he dangled and just lost his bottle completely.
Exactly.
How did you do it the correct time?
I actually played the piano, played the grand piano, and then went up. So we were on a cruise ship from around the Caribbean.
Oh.
Went upstairs and got down on one knee and proposed.
On the top deck.
Do you think, because there seems to be a rise in what they're calling boomerang marriages, where people are going back. Why do you think that is? Do you think people are maybe giving up too quickly the first time round, not working things through?
I do actually, and I think if there's a message, you know, nothing great and grand, but I think everyone who's perhaps going through this at the moment or is thinking about divorce, perhaps they should just stop, just think about it. I met my soul mate, and I knew that really at the beginning, and perhaps we should have thought about that a little bit more at the time. I have no doubts that Julie is the one for me.
So how have you adapted your marriage second time round?
We've begun to realise that our careers, I'm a comms director, Martin's a comms manager, the careers are not the most important thing anymore in our lives, and it's being with each other. And we're changing our careers. So Martin's learning to be a youth football coach, and also setting up a cat business. A cat business.
Absolutely.
Feeding people's cats when they're away.
Our family are our
completely
cats, you
different
see.
change, yeah.
Okay.
And I'm learning to be a personal trainer.
Do you think
So,
it's brought you closer together, having
Definitely.
gone through this?
Definitely.
Definitely made us realise what's important and to be a lot closer to home and with each other. One of my total role models is Paul McCartney, and the way that he never wanted to be away from Linda ever.
Yeah.
So
And they never were they?
They never
Right,
were.
they didn't spend one
Not
night
for a
apart.
night, no.
And that's how we live our lives now. We
Yeah.
want to make up for lost time.
Well. Now I think you get the gist. I'm sure this is going to open up now the conversation, looking at the kind of mistakes that they went through and realizing these mistakes, what they opted to do thereafter. That was very crucial. But also deciding, because sometimes they go into a relationship and then you realize probably it was the wrong one. And Dr. Hafid, today, actually, this was one of the questions or the areas that you touched on. I think you'll have found a little bit of inspiration or comfort in some of the information that has come out of this particular clip. Please allow me, with your permission, just to play the second clip so that we just get the clips out of the way. It is important because the cases are sort of similar, but they are different, and therefore, maybe if we have the second clip, if it's ready, it's a relatively shorter one, I think, and therefore we'll be able to open up our conversation at least well informed. If you've just joined us, this is Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira, and we are live on 75W Radio. We are live on Ummah Connected on YouTube, on Zoom, and on Facebook. Whenever that clip is ready, I think we will take it in. And the conversation we're having tonight, the topic is remarrying your ex, or boomerang couples, as they say, people who divorced and then came back to each other. What could have happened? What informed their decision to do that? Let's watch just this quick clip, just 6 minutes, and then inshallah, we'll just pick up the pieces, get to Dr. Hafiz, and then open the conversation to the wider audience. Thank you.
Herman and April Moncrief were high school sweethearts. After 10 years of dating, they said, "I do." Both were Christians and had high expectations for their marriage.
Our dating life was such a fairy tale. I just thought it was going to be this beautiful 50-year event.
The first, I would say, 4 or 5 years, man, it was just like, it was still like we were on courtship. We were still dating.
5 years into their marriage, April was ready for kids, but Herman was reluctant. When they did get pregnant, they were shocked to find out they were having twins.
And I remember the doctor saying, I see 2 heartbeats, and normally people would be excited, and I was. But I called him at work to tell him, and it was silent. He was totally silent, because we're planners. It really just threw us for a loop. We planned the pregnancy, but we didn't plan 2 babies.
Their children, Asia and Bryce, were born in March of 2005. Immediately, the pressure of being new parents created tension.
I was mama, he was daddy. Those were our roles, not wife, not husband.
We kind of forgot about each other. And so we just focused on the children.
Herman found his escape through work.
Usually if things are not going right, or if I just want to get away, you know, there was always something to do. So I just go to work. You know, so I'd work Saturdays, I'd work Sunday afternoons.
Resentful of Herman's work schedule, April lashed out verbally and fought for control in the marriage.
As soon as he hit the door, I was like, get a baby, I'm tired, I need help, I need this. I wouldn't let him rest, he couldn't relax. So our household at that time was really just, it's like walking on eggshells for both of us.
We were not talking or we were bickering. I mean, it was like those two extremes, and that was really it. I think at a certain point, I became one of these guys that's just really numb, right? So whatever you say, it didn't matter. Most times I wasn't even listening.
April repeatedly threatened Herman with divorce.
But I think part of me probably did want the divorce, but I didn't. And in my heart of hearts, I didn't. I kind of wanted to scare him into, you know, the ultimatum. And after the 50th time, I was just really trying to get his attention.
Herman eventually reached his breaking point.
You know, consistently, you know, twice a week, 3 times a week. You know, I want a divorce, I want out, I'm tired, I want a divorce. I was just to the point where, you know, hey, this is what you want, this is what I'm gonna give you.
Not for one second, I didn't think that we would end up divorced. I should have, but not for one second did I think so. When he said, okay, I'll give you what you want, I'm done. You know, the pride in me was like, fine, but inside I was screaming like, no, I don't want this.
I didn't take the time to, you know, to really pray about it. I didn't take the time to, you know, consult God and understand, you know, what's his role in this whole situation. And I was just like, no, I'm not doing any counseling. I'm not talking to anybody. I'm just signing.
In 2006, the divorce was final. Reality hit for Herman when April moved 2 hours away to be closer to family.
That's when I felt a huge sense of loss. When you're basically in a place of solitude and you've got a lot of time to think, you know, a lot of late nights, and I mean, there's no one around but you. I mean, you have a lot of time to think. I mean, you had a lot of time to pray, and you get a level of clarity. I think that's unmatched.
I remember specifically stuffing covers or sheets underneath their door, and because I would go into my room and cry so loud. I cried in that house probably for the first month.
Herman drove to see the children almost every weekend, and during his visits, Herman and April spent time alone again.
The kids were away. I knew they were safe. They were with my parents. I didn't worry about them, so now I could focus on this, and he could focus on me. And so we started to kind of rekindle the magic that was gone when the babies came out.
I don't think I ever stopped loving her, I'm saying. And I can say that honestly. And that's when I really said, okay, Lord, what do you want? What do I need to do here? What do you want me to do?
After almost 9 months, Herman and April decided to give their marriage a second chance. They saw a Christian counselor and prayed together regularly.
I think it was a tough road back because we both had to basically humble ourselves. It was very candid, it was very open, it was very healing.
Herman and April completed their counseling just a month before their original anniversary date. So on October 6, 2007, they remarried.
I will tell people that second time was just the most magnificent thing ever because God was truly there. Like Jesus was, I felt it, we felt it.
To stand up there and be able to, you know, once again recite your vows in front of the Lord and in front of the people that we care the most about. It was a moving experience, you know, to go from such a dark place to such a, you know, place of joy and jubilation.
Today, the Moncriefs want other couples to know the hope they found in their darkest hour.
Like,
All
you
right,
can't
Isma, I
go
think
through
you
what
can
we've been
stop
through
that. I think we
and
got
not
the gist
acknowledge him that
of
he
what I was intending
healed
to
and
have out of that.
restored. Jesus
I think we can
did a
stop it.
miraculous thing for
Hello,
us.
Isma. All right, thank you very much. All right, welcome to Come. Let's talk with me, Kassim Kayira. Two clips I think that had a different message altogether. One that involved God, the other one, however, actually all had a bit of a serious element of love. The first couple took a bit longer to reconcile or to realize what was going on and making a quick decision. The second couple, within 9 months, actually realized they were going down the wrong route and managed to bring themselves back. So tonight, inshallah, we are opening up the conversation to you. Remember, this is one area where we can talk about anything. The only difference with this program is we do it decently. So there is no swearing, there is no shouting at each other. We just have a conversation. Dr. Hafiz, welcome to the program. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Well, welcome. And for starters, I think I'd like to you've watched the two clips. You know the topic that we're talking about tonight. I'd like, first of all, to get your own reaction. How did you feel looking at these two couples? Not dramatized. These are actually real people who lived real lives and went through these particular experiences. Your own take, first and foremost, before we delve into the aspects.
Thank you very much, Kassim Kayira. And I want to also welcome the audience to this very important session. I wouldn't have a very big comment about these two episodes or these two footages that we have just watched. But to me, my conclusion is life is never at the same situation. There are always some situations that can intervene. And as couples, when you look into yourselves and you try to review what you have been passing through, at the end of the day, you make a conclusion that really, let us give our previous engagement another chance. Of course, for outsiders, they might not appreciate what you are going through. But since the two of you have ever been together and having experienced that kind of life when you are disconnected, I think in one way or another, you reach the conclusion that, okay, let's give it another chance. That is the simple comment that I can make.
Now, do we have examples from Islamic history, for example, where couples have sort of divorced, gone away, and then come back to remarry the same people?
Yes, we do. I want to cite one prominent one, even though I might not recall the names of the parties which were involved. But what happened during the Prophet's time is that one of the companions was married, of course, with another Sahabiya. And then after that, they had some misunderstandings that led to separation. But of course, as I said, that life is never on the same situation. The experiences that each of them passed through in a single life made them to draw closer and make a decision that why don't we reunite? Now, what happened is that the guardian of the lady was resisting the reunion. Why? Because the way how the husband treated this daughter was not good. And much as this lady was willing to reunite, the guardian, as you know from the Islamic perspective, the guardian has a hand in the marriage of the daughter or any other person who is under his guardianship. So the guardian was resisting until when the matter reached the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the guardian had actually a strong reason. He said, I simplified the union. I simplified the marriage. When I was giving away this daughter, I simplified to this man. But the way how he has rewarded me, it's like he's rewarding me by mistreating her. Therefore, I don't want to give him another chance. It is because of that event that Quran, I think chapter 2, chapter 2, verse 238 was revealed, whereby Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that, when you have divorced your women and they have fulfilled their term, that is after observing their iddah, they say that do not prevent them from reuniting with their former husbands if they have mutually agreed on reasonable grounds. That is the very common or very popular event that I can recall at this time. Thank you.
Now, in Islam, we see that an opportunity or a chance is given. Allah, in that particular chapter 2, verse 231, making it clear that if two parties that had disagreements or had fallen out of love suddenly realize there's still some flame that can be rekindled, once they have an opportunity, you should not stop them. That gives, though, there are options, though, where, for example, it can only go up to 3 times. After 3 times, you can no longer marry the person.
Yeah.
Do we know why that is? Why should the woman, first of all, get married to another man who can get to marry them? And is it possible that because the chance has been taken out of me, I bribe someone to marry them, and then for a quick period they divorce them so that I can have them back?
You see, in order to attempt that question, we need to look at the comprehensive perspective of Islam vis-a-vis reunion. Away from marriage, Islam is always interested in mending fences. That's why you know that even the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that if two believers happen to have a misunderstanding and to an extent that they part ways, they separate, the best always is the one who begins with salam. That is the foundation for reunion in Islam. You also know from another perspective where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِن طَائِفَتَانِ مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ اقْتَتَلُوا فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَهُمَا. When you find two parties having a misunderstanding that make them even to reach an extent of fighting each other, your role is to reconcile between the two. The verse continues, but in the interest of time, I might not go deep into that. But I was trying to tell you that from the general perspective of Islam, reunion is always given chance as much as it is possible. Now, when it comes to marriage, one would wonder, why doesn't Islam facilitate it and make it as easy as possible? Some of the reasons that could be given here is that we are talking about a sacred covenant. We are talking about mithaq ghalidh. That is how Allah decided to describe it. So much so that your conduct, as long as that lady is in your hands, your conduct, as long as that husband is yours, should always be careful. You should always be calculative. You should always be mindful about the emotions, the psychology, the many, many other factors. I have just been sharing, in our class today, that marriage shouldn't be looked at like any other contracts that, we had a misunderstanding with my business partner, and therefore we are going to reconcile as simple as possible. Why is it not like that? One of the scholars said that a human being has 3 major happenings in life. Number 1 is birth, and you know how significant birth is because If you are not born, how would you enjoy your life as a human being? The second is marriage. Then the third one is death. But between birth and death, Allah puts marriage. And when you look at marriage, it is unique in such a way that the first one, which is birth, and the last one, which is death, you have no hand in them. They just come by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the only major happening that you are given a chance to have a say and to make a decision in. Now, why is it that Islam, when it comes to reunion, especially after the third talaq, it is trying to tighten, the possibility of reunion? You could look at it, first of all, by looking at the fact that you had some good chances to reunite without any payment, without any cost. Yes. That is one. And when you have divorce, yes. Please go ahead, Kassim.
No, I was saying you had two chances before that you misused. Now the third chance, after the third chance, you must pay to be able.
You might have misused them. You might have just neglected them. You undermined them. Number one, when you divorce your wife, and after divorce, if automatically this woman is going into idda. Allah has given you a chance to reunite within the Idda period without any cost. It is a matter just...
For those guests who do not understand the Idda period, Idda is that waiting period. So between the time that you say I've divorced you and the time you actually separate, that's the Idda period. And it's normally 3 months here. Is that correct?
Yeah. Thank you very much for throwing some light on that.
We've got some members here who are not knowledgeable in that, but also non-Muslims who are part of the conversation, because this is a global community conversation. Go ahead, Sheikh.
Which is so great, and they are very highly welcome. You know, the first chance that you are given is that you can reunite without a cost. Islam has even facilitated and simplified this kind of reunion, that it barred this woman from going away from your matrimonial home, so that you can access her, so that your reunion can be as simple as, Madam, let us reunite, as simple as having a sexual intercourse with her. And of course, Islam has put this woman in such a very tempting situation that really, unless if you are having some very big problems with her, reunion is very much facilitated as very much possible. Now, you didn't use that chance. After the expiry of the waiting period, say 3 months, then Islam has given you another chance still of reunion, but this time attaching a certain cost. What is that cost? That if you want to reunite with this woman after the expiry of this period, you should find somehow, somewhere to blame yourself, and that's why you need to pay a cost. And that cost still, it is a simplified cost. What is it? Just to go and make a new nikah with her. Pay her the new dowry, go to the parents and apologize so that you can seek their consent for the second time. Once you do that, please go back with your wife. As simple as that.
Dr. Hafid, considering the things that are taken these days, the fridges, the chairs, the cows, that means now repeating that whole scenario if you're going to have to go and ask for the permission again.
Sorry, I did not get you on that.
No, I was just saying, you have said it is a simplified nikah where you go back to the parents for their permission and then marry. But if you consider today's weddings and the way people take a lot of things, cows, dining, tankayamazi, would you have to repeat that entire process?
You know, of course, all that process that you are talking about, it falls under the gifts. But you know how Islam has simplified the nikah when we look at the traditional nikah. So others, of course, will be in one way of liberating yourself, that you have to take some things to the parents to show them that now you are opening a new chapter. Now, this is yet another step in which Islam has also made it simple. Now, where Islam tightened and it made it somehow complicated is when you have divorced your wife for the first time and you reunited, by the way. Then after that, you had some misunderstandings and you also divorced. Then you reunited. On this, there must be something fundamentally wrong on your side as the husband. That should you risk to issue another divorce, in this case, Islam, I think, Islam comes in with with a spirit of putting you in order. In other words, which kind of a woman will be like a playing toy? Today you divorce, you reunite. You divorce, you reunite. She loses value. That is why our Muslim scholars, while looking at the rationality of that requirement of an intervening marriage, just as you have just stated it, that when you divorce your wife for the third time, Islam says, no, enough is enough. Therefore, let this woman, first of all, get out of the matrimonial home and observe the waiting period from her parents' home. Then after completing that waiting period, say of 3 months or according to the situation, in order for you to reunite with her, she has to go and marry another man. And this is the marriage that we call an intervening marriage. Now, when this intervening marriage takes place, of course, it is not like you are going to plan it so that you can facilitate the reunion. No, things are going to take their normal course.
Would it be haram? Would it be forbidden for me to bribe someone to marry my wife and I plead with him to divorce her as soon as possible so that then I can remarry her?
Thank you very much. The answer to that is addressed by two prophetic traditions. Number one, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "La'ana Allahu al-muhallil wal-muhallalu lahu." Allah cursed that person who goes in, as you have said, that let me hire someone, let me bribe someone so that he can marry, and then after that, that woman becomes halal. The one who does it is cursed, and the one also who influences it or initiates it is also cursed. In another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, "La'ana Allahu Tais al-Musta'ar." Allah, cursed. Look at the description that is given even to that man who accepted that kind of dubious deal. The Prophet described him as a hired bull. Allah cursed a hired bull. A hired bull is that man you agree with, please just go and marry her. Then after that, divorce her so that she can become halal to me. Because it defeats the fact that you are a human being. What kind of a human being that is your role? That is, the role that you have chosen to play in the community. So I think with that I have answered your concern that what if when I go in so that you can do something in order to facilitate the reunion.
No.
Now, this brings me in the interest of time. This brings me in the interest of time to look at what are some of the reasons which were advanced by Muslim scholars for this kind of complication. Remember, this second husband, he's marrying a wife just like in any way that you can express interest in a certain woman. Then you marry her, you pay the dowry, the nikah goes on, you take her home, you stay with her until when things go bad, until when he divorces her like the first time and he has the chance to reunion, just like the chances that you had, you the one who wants to reunite. Now, having
this new husband has.
The new husband also is not looked at as a new husband. Is looked at as an independent husband. By the way, is not even interested in knowing that this is Kassim Kayira's ex.
Yes.
He's not interested. For him, he has chosen someone. And I have just made another statement which I read from Imam Al-Awza'i, who said that when a man marries a woman with the purpose of making this contract temporary, even if all the essentials of a valid marriage have been fulfilled, that is zina. So we are looking at the new man who is not just setting something temporary because maybe after all this is a second hand. After all, no, this is not the kind of the intention that this man has. Now, until when things don't work out even with the second person, that is when he takes, a decision to divorce her, and even takes a decision of having no interest in reunion. Now, Mr. X number one, you can walk in now to express your interest so that you can reunite.
You would have to be too patient, or actually she must have some gold around her that would.
Of course.
But like we said at the start of the program, Dr. Hafiz, we have had those cases. For example, I've just mentioned from looking within my own family, finding that there are cases that we have had, and I'm sure part of this, the beauty of this program are the experiences that people share. I'm sure once we open the microphones to the people, we'll start hearing these experiences and these particular stories and how people probably got back together. There might even be some people who are probably have undergone divorce, or they're in the process of divorce, and probably this conversation tonight might be one that help them to hold back and change their mind about it. Dr. Hafiz, that is fantastic. Thank you very much. Now, on the last question, I had one last question. And of course, for the audience, our viewers, our listeners, you can ask any questions if you want. You can just raise your hand before Dr. goes. But we're going to open up, of course, the conversation to get the experiences of these situations. You might have heard about them. It doesn't necessarily have to be about you. It might be people that you know. It might be probably you managed even to get back. It would be very interesting if we heard from people who were divorced and then got back together. It would be that's one of the surprises that this program sometimes brings. Someone might just raise their hand and say, "We went through this stuff and we are back together." That would be, I think, one of the highlights. Now, Dr. Hafid, you've spoken about the difficulty that is put once a person has divorced for the third time, where Islam now allows you to only marry this person once they've gone out, they've remarried, and then they've divorced, gone through the entire process like you went through, and then if it feels that you are still compatible with one another, being able to get married. Is there a situation that Islam would never allow a couple that was once together never to get married? Is there any grounds?
Okay. There are two grounds that are always addressed by Muslim scholars, even though, as you know, the majority of these masail, the majority of these issues are, of course, having various perspectives and various opinions. Number one is li'an, Li'an, if I can try to give to throw some light on it, is a situation whereby a husband suspects his wife of committing adultery. Islam, by the way, this takes me back to how, sanctity, how sacred is the marriage contract. Because under ordinary circumstances, if a man accuses a woman who is not related to her of adultery or of fornication, is required to produce the standard of evidence that is measuring to 4. That is, if at all there is no relationship. But in a situation whereby it is the husband accusing the wife, or it is the wife who is accusing the husband, in this case, that standard was a bit lowered, or it was a bit lessened, even though, by the way, when you look at it, you'll find it that the end result, it is actually more complicated.
Yes.
Now, what will happen here is that in case the husband accuses the wife of adultery or the opposite, they are not required to produce the standard of 4 eyewitnesses. What happens is that they are going to appear before a Muslim judge, or they are going to appear before the imam, or they are going to appear in the Qadhi courts, and then the husband will be given an opportunity to establish or to prove, to stand by his position that, yes, I'm still accusing her, or the wife does that. Now,
Dr.
if
Hafiz,
they start,
Dr.
yes,
Hafiz,
please.
yeah, my sincere apologies. Hold that thought, because I just wanted to, again, break it down much further. Again, to our audience who might be unfamiliar, I'm sure you'll bring the examples. I just want to bring in a small example that might just paint the picture for our audience to sort of be travel along with your explanation. Picture this, my audience. Picture this. You are, you've come away. You've told your wife you're going on a journey, And then, actually, it could be vice versa. It might be husband, it might be wife. But oftentimes, the issue, first of all, the issue that leads to divorce is the issue of unfaithfulness, or adultery, coming out of being unfaithful. So, husband, you tell your wife you're going on a journey, something happens along the way, you come back. Maybe you've had your suspicions, or maybe totally out of the blue, just like God decides to show you probably what you didn't know about your wife. Come back home, your wife has either gone to a lodge or inside your own home, for the women who are even tougher, who will just bring, like someone inside the home, or even husband. And I'm saying we can use these interchangeably. You find your wife with a man in a bedroom and you catch them. For you to be able to go outside and start calling 4 people as witnesses to come and witness, first of all, your wife, in your own self, in terms of integrity, that is difficult. You have killed yourself twice. You've brought people to come and be witnesses to what you have seen. But also from a manly perspective, again, being able to sort of say, by the time you go to call those 4 witnesses, the people who are in the act will have stood up and gone away, and therefore you won't have.
Exactly.
So because of that, you've seen this, you are sure that you have seen it. It's not just a question of you found the door locked and you just had some people, it can't be enough. You need to. I'm sure the jurists went as far as trying to see how much you can deduce evidence to show that this person actually has been cheating. So I just wanted to flag that for our audience to sort of get a picture of how deep this is in terms of trying to protect the chastity of either parties. So as a husband, you cannot go to say you've seen your wife in a situation and you go there now to make sure you testify. So Dr. Habib, go ahead, please. So the evidence that you're going to use as the party, as the party that has complained.
Yeah, thank you very much for that intervention and for that clarification. Just the way you have described the situation, it is really a very difficult situation. That is why, by the way, the first event in Islam, the person was like, he even feared to ask about that situation before the Prophet. When he was just starting to say that, what if, imagine somebody finds this, the companions were like, please don't talk about it. It is so much, please don't even, it's just like, don't become a fitna. You never know, it might happen. Yet the man was talking about actually something that had already taken place. Yes. Now, in that case, when it takes place, Islam requires that these people are going to make what we call li'an. The literal meaning is that the implication, we call it implication in the language of fiqh. What will happen is that the two will stand before the Muslim judge, and the man is going to take 4 oaths by saying that, I swear in the name of Allah, I found this woman in that act. Or the opposite, the woman says that, I swear in the name of Allah, I found this man in this act. So each of them is going to make 4 oaths to establish and to confirm that that is going to be taken as their evidence. But I need also
repeating those words 4 times.
Yeah, that I swear in the name of Allah, I saw her, I'm speaking the truth about her. Now, people would wonder, in the world that we are living in, taking an oath is as simple as wallahi, I have seen her. But the Islamic perspective, or the underlying philosophy of an oath in Islam is that it is a direct connection between you and Allah. It is like you are saying that you people who are around, you might not believe in what I'm saying, but Allah is my primary and my first witness in what I'm saying. And that is why, from the Islamic perspective, taking an oath should be the last thing that you should think about, especially when you know that actually you are not speaking the truth. Now, when these people make the 4 oaths, the man says that I'm speaking the truth. Then the woman says that I swear by the name of Allah is not truthful, is telling a lie. Then they make the 5th one, whereby the man says that, let the wrath of Allah, let the la'ana, let the curse of Allah be on me if at all I'm not speaking the truth. And the woman says that, let the wrath, let the anger of Allah be on me if at all this man is saying the truth. Now, after that kind of process, the Qadi, that is the Muslim judge, will order for separation. And here we have two views of Muslim scholars, that after the Qadi has made such kind of decision or judgment, the two shall never meet again. The two shall never reunite. And when you try to look into their argument, you could actually find some strong reasons. You know, can you imagine a person you stood with in a court of law, and he accused you or she accused you of adultery, that at a later stage, the community is ready to receive you as people who have reunited again? You know, that is how they look at it, that it is too much, that this matter once upon a time, it became public, that it was taken by the judgment or the decision of the court, and therefore, no, these two people should never reunite. But of course, there is a section of scholars who come in and say, no, reunion is always given chance as much as it is possible. That is a minority view of some scholars. So that is one situation whereby reunion is not possible. Yes. Of course, the second is where the woman is the one who has initiated the divorce. That is what we call khulu. That a woman walks into an Islamic court and says that from today onwards, I have come and I want this court to separate me with my husband. You know, when you look deep into the process of that khulu, you could also find a good reason why the scholars say that when the woman is the one who has initiated the divorce, there shouldn't be any reunion. Why? Because one of the unique characteristics of this khulu, the woman is not under obligation to say the reason why she's asking for separation. Because of reasons.
You know, the interesting thing, the interesting thing is something has happened here in the UK for the first time in nearly 40 years. They passed a law last month, which now for you to ask for divorce, for a woman especially to ask for divorce, you do not have to provide reasons as to why you want to divorce. Now, to
Subhanallah.
Yes,
Subhanallah.
It is the first significant change in marriage and divorce law in 80 years. But in the last years, nothing had happened. So for the first time, because normally it had to be unfaithfulness, it had to be if there was issues to do with their domestic violence or lack of care or compassion. And those were sort of the grounds, but mainly infidelity was like top of the agenda. Right now in UK, you do not have to have reasons as to why you want to divorce someone. Now, to see that the Sharia already established.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. This is so great. Thank you for that information, because you are actually enriching my discussion. Should I meet my students once again? Thank you so much.
That was passed last month, and it was the
Subhanallah. Now, some people online might think that we don't have sources, we don't have proof on that. The first case where the woman asked for divorce in Islam is the case of Thabit bin Qais. That is the first case in Islam. Now, when you look at the process, the procedure that they passed through with the Prophet, the man had actually left his home without necessarily having fundamental misunderstanding with the wife. And now, as the wife is moving around the suburbs of the city of Medina, he finds a husband, and something goes wrong into her mind. And then she runs to the Prophet and says, Ya Rasulallah, I am not complaining about his religion, I'm not complaining about his morality, but something came into my mind that I might not continue in a relationship with this man. The Prophet summons Qais and says, please come, there is a case here. And he says that your wife has come here, and she's saying that it is over. Qais is like, what has happened? There is nothing. You know, why is it? This is not fair. This is not justice. Until the Prophet ﷺ says that, Qais, please, you know, first ask the woman, are you ready to return the garden which you received as dowry? Then the woman says, I'm ready. Can you imagine that kind of courage? That I'm ready to return it. I don't mind, I'm ready. So as Qais was insisting, the Prophet patted on him and says, please accept the return of your dowry and give her the divorce. Allow her to go.
So,
So
Dr.
you
Hafiz,
see,
Dr. Hafiz,
yes,
in
please.
other words, when it
Mm.
comes to relationships where a woman is the one who is seeking to be separated or divorced from the husband, in that case, no evidence even is required. No, like she doesn't have to justify why she's doing so, because women take time to make decisions. Is that the case? Is that why that women don't just decide?
You know, part of it is that what you have just said.
Mm-hmm.
But also another issue is that we need to appreciate the fact that women by their natural constitution, they persevere, they are resilient. By the time she comes out boldly and with that courage to say enough is enough, it means that she must have gone through a lot and she had been patient. And that is why Sharia gives the benefit of doubt that please, temumutakula, leave her. Leave her alone. If she has come out and, she wants divorce, let it go. Number two, why is it that she's not under a legal obligation? It is because, to a certain extent, some of the reasons that had brought her to initiate and ask for divorce, it might have been a private matter.
Mm-hmm.
It might be related to bed issues.
Yes.
Whether you can actually play up to 90 minutes or you only play for 5 minutes and then after that, it is over.
Yes.
Now, can you imagine if the Islamic court, yes, if the Islamic court put her on pressure to tell the reason, she could say, Banange, enough is enough. The last 10 years I have been with this man is such and such and such. Will you sustain that kind of psychological trauma? Because, by the way, even if you choose to go to these herbalists and you start taking jerrycans and jerrycans of mulondo that you want to regain, still something will be stuck on your mind that something is wrong. You get it? So I want to conclude this by saying that this is a second situation whereby some scholars say, according to the statement used by the Prophet, let me read this statement verbatim as it is in Arabic. The Prophet said that, Akbil hadiqatak, accept the return of your dowry, وَطَلِّقْهَا طَلْقَةً, and then give her a divorce once. Now the interpretation of the word talqa, it is the one which caused the two opinions. Some of them are saying that give her one divorce once and for all. It is over, you'll never reunite. Others are saying that no, the Prophet just said that طَلِّقْهَا طَلْقَةً وَاحِدَةً, then give her one divorce in such a way that if the situation improves, you are free to reunite. Of course, you are free to reunite.
Yes.
Exactly. So these are the two situations that are deliberated by Muslim scholars whereby reunion is not acceptable in such situation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That actually we've dragged in, and I'm sure many people now are getting. It's time to open up the microphones. I see Engineer Makumbi's hand is already up. There will be a question there for Sheikh. And remember, we're having a conversation about remarrying, and we're trying to look at the Islamic perspective, which I'm sure for the non-Muslims joining this conversation, even the Muslims, you might have actually learned something totally new and very interesting. Issa Makumbi, please, you have the mic. Keep your questions short so that then we allow more people. Thank you very much for being part of the conversation today.
Yeah, I had a lot of conversation which was telling us how it's supposed to be done by the law.
Yes.
Those people, they had high moral values. But the present value nowadays, the morals are so low. And the law has been really made to make a man less effective or have no say in most of the life in the house. You have a wife, he says, makes an accusation to the police. You are suspended or not to come nearby till the court decides to do so. So when you look at our people at home, all of that, what has been talking about, is no longer possible. Very rarely you find that the percentage is 1%. People exercise all those. One says, well, lie, when you know that 100% is telling lies.
Mm.
You can tell someone, or you can bribe someone to come and witness that I've seen so and so, yet hasn't seen anything. Because of monetary money.
But isn't it, engineer, isn't it that the fundamentals in these aspects is we talk about what it is supposed to be. What people actually practice is different, because now you can't, in some situations you can't even enforce. You've mentioned the issue of calling the police and so on. In a country like here in UK where we are, you find that, for example, if that comes in, Islamic Sharia cannot be applied in that sort of environment, where, for example, the police, which is coming from a secular state, has been involved. It takes away the ability to be able, and that is why I think Dr. Hafid was clear. He was saying, when you go before a Muslim judge, and these Qadhi courts have been allowed in certain instances, even here, actually, I think very soon, because the Qadhi courts are recognized here in some cases when it comes to family law. They have been recognized, they've been given, they're trying to give them much fuller powers. But let me not take it out of.
Yeah, what I'm just talking about, just the real life, what we are living in.
Yes.
For example, in Uganda, I had my grandfather and my uncle. They married wives, then they divorced. Sometimes they brought them back. I said, why? He said, that's what their terminology was. You divorce, suspend someone for some time. When the changes financially becomes better, you bring her in. Or when has been misbehaving.
Would that be from another marriage, or would that be from bringing them from another marriage, or they were waiting?
His wife at home. He used to chase him away. After some time, they reconcile. You see him bring out the bike. Then they pretend as if nothing has ever happened.
Yes.
So it depends on age and surroundings. What I'm trying to say, life has changed tremendously. And those things they're good. All of us would like to apply it, but at times it's not possible. When you say
on tonight's topic, Bwana Makumbi, on tonight's topic where we are talking about remarrying,
that's what I'm trying to tell you.
You've referred to the grandparents. It's as if within our own generation it's not happening. Within our days, don't you have examples of people who have divorced and then got back together? What was
I've seen some people who engaged when they're in universities. Yes. They went somewhere, they remarried, and when they go back, they start chasing those. I've seen one case in this place. He had his girlfriend even proposed. Then, by the events of the political system at home, he ran away. He came here, he married. Then they divorced. Then went back to Uganda and married this girlfriend, and they're living together happily. It's possible. It's happening. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Issa Makumbi. For that, I think you take us into a new area. Let's open up the conversation now. Remember, you can always actually, if you're shy enough, you can just go into the chat room and just share your messages there, and we shall be reading them out, inshallah. So I'll just come, as we do in this program, I'll just go randomly before Dr. Hafiz goes, because in Kampala it's already late. It's actually 11:30 at the moment. Shatra's iPhone, please, your own take on tonight's conversation. And after listening to Dr. Hafiz. Shatra's iPhone.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Well, thank you for the very interesting topic. It's been very informative, especially on my side. And we have a lot of seeking knowledge to do regarding our deen, because we don't know most of these things and we take them for granted. So if we are really submitting to the will of Allah, we have to abide by the laws that Allah has put in place for us. That's my submission.
Looking at the two clips that we first watched of these couples that broke up and sort of got back together, well, it is their own situation, and therefore they know best what their circumstances were. But how did you feel about them getting back together? Did you feel they were probably ready? Did you feel probably what happened to them in the first instance wasn't strong enough to separate them? Or
I wouldn't judge any of the couples, but we go through very, especially in us in the Western world, we go through a lot because we are by ourselves. They were having twins and they didn't have any help. So there are many things that derail us from our marriages. And I'm glad that they really got back together because they gave themselves a second chance. And in case something happens after that, you're content that you gave it a second chance.
Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. Najib is saying, I'm at work, I can't talk just in case the microphone. You just got me in time. I'll go to Joy. Joy Mutesi, good evening. Yeah, Najib, your message is noted. Thank you very much. I was actually coming to you after Joy. Hello, Joy. Are you there? Hello, Joy. Joy, I think, is still held up. Couldn't hear us. I'll just go to Munu. Munu, are you there? Munu? Munu, could you unmute yourself, please? Oh, I've seen Layla can do it. Just go to Layla while Munu gets ready. Munu, please, if you get ready, I'll come to you after I get to Layla. Layla, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hello, Sister Layla. It's just suddenly gone quiet. What's happened? Layla, are you there? Why don't I just fly to Texas while Layla comes in? Hello, Maryam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I can hear a mic that is open. Is that me or Maryam? Maryam, Texas, are you there? Yusuf Rubega. Oh, Maryam is there. Yes. And Yusuf, I'll come to you as well. Don't mute yourself. Hello, Maryam.
Yusuf, I joined late, so I may not give you a good response.
No, but what we are doing is sharing experiences. It's not so much probably the responses because Dr. Hafid was giving us the Islamic perspective. But in general, I just wanted to know if you know somebody who was in a relationship, divorced, and then remarried. Maybe that might be the experience that you share.
Sorry, the only one I know now is Jennifer Lopez.
Yes. Yes.
Just from the news.
Yeah.
I don't know
but
anyone.
17 years apart. Does that surprise you?
And some news said 20 years. Well, it surprised me, but I'm happy for them. Whoever reunites, I'm happy for them. I don't blame them at all.
No, it's not about blaming, but it's probably trying to see what they must have gone through to sort of get that decision. 20 years or 17 years is a long time. That's nearly 2 decades.
Right. I know.
Eh? Yusuf Rubega. Yes. Yusuf Rubega. Yeah,
yes, Sheikh Kassim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much for this interesting topic. I hope I'm clear and loud.
Absolutely.
MashaAllah. Thank you, Dr. Hafiz, for that excellent submission, as always. Probably one of the most intelligent scholars in Uganda right now, MashaAllah. Now, as far as that issue is concerned, now, I have like friends here in the US who, for no fault of their own, like separated from their wives. I'll give you an example, Sheikh Kayira. You're in Uganda, things get a little bit tight. You tell Madam, MashaAllah, there's an opportunity for me to go to UK or the US. But inshallah, I'll work on the papers and get you to join me. Yes. Now, when you come like to the US, the immigration system gets you 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. You're promising, inshallah, next year, I'm coming back. Oh, the judge postponed by a year, by another year. Maybe 6 years go down and Madam decides to move on. Of course, you get very hurt. But then later on, your papers go through, mashallah. And usually in such cases, you're like still communicating and you're like, all right, I'm sorry, things happened. Maybe she goes, gets married and thinks she's not very happy, you're doing very well, and you still have that connection. So personally, I think like that would be like a vessel through which like people can reconnect, because you didn't separate on like bad terms. It wasn't like physical abuse, financial abuse. It was just the distance, and it was no fault of your own. It's the system which got you. At least I know like more than 5 friends here who have been a victim of such situations.
No,
But I
actually,
hope and pray that
even here in UK, I can attest to that. Many people get trapped. You come in, you can't go back. Actually, now you've spoken about there are times you get stuck. It's not even failing to bring them, but you cannot even travel back to be able to be with them because you entered the system hasn't freed you, so you don't even have the means of getting there to be able to access them, and that can be a problem. But
absolutely, you left like a 25 or 26-year-old, even if she's like 35, you know, she can't wait for so long.
Yes.
I think after like 5 years, she'll be like, I'm really sorry. She may like even move on like quietly without trying to hurt you. And then you get to know HIJJA moved on. Then musigala mulinga, you know, the love is there, kusasigana kwe kuli jagens and everything working out. And you're like, oh, maybe we should, you know. MashaAllah, barakallahu fikum. Very, very good topic. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Other situations that actually happen, you know, there are other scenarios that do happen. Someone comes in excitedly, you know, divorces, goes away, and then suddenly realizes probably where I thought I was going to, things don't really work, and you try to find ways of coming back. And because you left the other person with their heart still really longing for you, because in a divorce situation, there's always someone who loves the other much more than the other. And it might not necessarily be the person who has invoked the divorce. It might be someone else that actually has contributed to that. Jaden, come in, please. Thank you very much, Yusuf Rudega. Jaden, you have the mic. Hello, Jaden, you have the mic.
Thank you very much, Brother Kassim. And I just wish to extend a hand of thanks for the education that Dr. Hafiz has given us. It was very enlightening. Like I said before I joined this program, that one of the reasons I find them enlightening is because there's always new things, interesting things that we learn. Every session is different. Every session is entertaining. I wanted to come out on the topic. It's, as the doctor elaborately explained, the process of divorce and why people get divorced and things like that. But when you look at from the human side, because we are all human, however much we try to follow the religion, there is always what I would broadly call temptations of the world, temptations of the flesh. A couple might be happily married for 1 year, 20 years, but along the way, things like one of the partners is chasing a career, another is looking at financial gains, or he or she has seen another man or woman who's got much more money than their partner, and they get attracted to it. Or in some cases, they get offspring, but not the kind of offspring that they would wish to have, because the people who want to have boys, while there are others who want to have girls all through. And if the marriage just results in a string of boys, then they begin to question themselves and say, is it myself, or supposing I try further failed, I get what I'm looking for. So it's those kind of temptations which lead to the divorce or separation.
Yes.
But whatever the cause, the route that we normally take from a psychological point of view is that when you leave a partner, or when people get divorced, they always try to look for the very opposite of what they've had, because they are fed up with what they have. The man might be tall, fat, with a big stomach, so they'll look for the very opposite, for someone who is very athletic, somebody who's got a six-pack, somebody's got a lot of money, or they look for the woman with all kinds of carbs. So you go for the very opposite. But you forget that along the lines, when you're married, it's a unity where you mold into one thing. All those differences that you had as individuals, you smoothen out the edges. If somebody snores a lot in bed, for example, you ignore that.
Yes.
Yeah? You ignore that as part of the unity. Or if somebody has got certain bad habits, which as a single person you didn't like them, but once you get married, you ignore that kind of those kind of behaviors. Yeah. But when you go to look for another partner, you'll find that at the back of your mind, you're missing those things that you are running away from. The nasty habit, a husband or a wife might come back from work and throws the socks there or a bag there. Well, it might look like an annoying behavior, but it's also a source of conversation. Yes? Why have you thrown that there? And then you start your conversation from that. So you miss those kind of things, and you begin to long for your ex-partner. Say, now, my ex-partner, we used to do this, we used to disagree, but at the end of it, we would always have a conversation and iron things. But because I've moved away, somehow, should I go back? Are those the kind of things which pull people back to their former partners? There's that saying that the grass may look green on the other side of the fence, but once you go over, you'll find that it's green, okay, but it's not edible grass. So there's lots of things that come into play, and much as religion forms the framework, we should not forget that we are human beings, and there are certain temptations which we cannot overcome, and we find ourselves drawn into. And following the lines of the religion is important, but there's a way, like the previous speaker said, and two speakers before me say that when things are hard, you let the wife go, and then when things become okay, you bring the wife back without following all those channels. So we are all humans, and we have to accept some of these things.
Barakallahu fikum. Laila Kadu in the chat room says some men marry by mistake. Atenga nesente tewali ngo bwavo buli koyo bukunkumukanga majini ngewabide rukuya. We move on when they mature enough. We come back, subhanallah. And Huawei definitely was asking Chinyabo. And Laila, as usual, doesn't disappoint. She will just throw it on. Well, she's refused to come on the mic. I hope I wish she could come on and just make the comments, live in. You are there. I'm sure you've been listening into the conversation. I'd like to get your take on this. What do you make of this? Should it be easy for people to remarry? Is it okay for people to remarry, or since you broke up in the first place, probably you shouldn't bother going back, because the same problems might still happen? Rahila? Hi, Rahila. Why don't I actually take it now to Nilfa? I saw Nilfa, and Engineer Makumbi's hand is up. I'll come to you. Sule Moses, I think I just came in. I don't think I saw him. Zahra has been around. Yes, I'll go to Zahra. Zahra, please go ahead. Hello, Zahra. Hello, Zahra. Assalamu alaikum. Subhanallah, gone quiet. Dr. Hafiz, just come back quickly. Let me go to engineer while we get Laila. I'd like you to come on, please, and just clarify on this. Oh, I can't talk on medication round. Okay, Nilfa, understood. Got your message. Engineer, please come on. Isa Makumbi. Yes.
Assalamu alaikum again.
Alaikum salam. What is burning?
The thing is burning is we used to be in secondary schools. You find those who have got their proper girlfriends. The other guy goes somewhere, the boy goes somewhere. Say 5 or 10 years, they meet. When they meet, they corner, they laugh. And you find there's not a problem. When you compare the life I had with my girlfriend when I was at secondary school or the university, you prefer that was better than the one I've married. Then eventually, you need something to start a quarrel, to give someone an excuse to run away. And in most cases, a man gets an excuse, he runs back to his former girlfriend, and then they marry, and then have a happy life. That is very common nowadays.
But that is assuming that she's still the girlfriend, because otherwise, if she's married, if she's in another relationship, are you meaning that he might be able to go and drag her out of the relationship?
They found that they had so many things in common.
Yes.
Because being very poor, they don't look at material thing. That was true love. So when they meet, there's a lot of problem, and you find that at the time they end up reconciling and then getting married. That's why that is
the AKADANYUMA in Uganda, I would imagine.
Yeah, and that's why I find most of them are going for a second marriage. Yes. That's what happens. They go back from where they came from their previous girlfriends. Even though has got children, they don't care about that. Children have grown up, they go back and then they live a very happy life.
Ending their lives together. Because they had something that in the beginning and something came up in the middle.
Yeah.
Barakallahu fikum, Engineer Makoum. Sheikh Amregi, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sheikh Amregi, are you home yet, or are you on your way?
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Sheikh Kayira.
So I'm sure you have been listening in the background, through the conversation. The Sheikh Dr. Hafid for the submission. How easy, and I mean, to you now, I can talk to you because you are one of our elders in the community, one of the respected elders in the community. How easy is it to get married and get back to a person you were married to before? Is it
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Ebigambo bya Sheikh oba Dr. Hafiz bibadde nze ku lwange bimalidde amazeeyo questions zonna ze mbadde nga neebuuza mutwe gwange. Owulidde naye nga ebiseera ebimu nkitwale nti obutamanya tuleetera okubeera mu bizibu biki bingi. Lwaki? Nze ninako mukwano gwange omukyala yasaba divorce, yasaba khulu, ne bamuteekako a lot of questions. Bamubuuza lwaki omuta, lwaki okola bwoti, lwaki okola bwoti, lwaki okola bwoti. Olina okuleeta ensonga ezirulikika mu Busiraamu okubeera nti oyawukana naki n'omusajja. Ne bamubeeza mu buzibu bw'obufumbo for almost 3 years. Paka lwe yeesuula ddalu, n'akwata ebibye, n'atambula n'akola ki? N'agenda. Ne bamugamba okyali mufumbo, n'abagamba, n'akwata amahare g'omusajja ge yamuwa. Zaali bwe mba nziziza mu ssente z'ewaffe Kyaddondo, it was about 5 million. N'azikwata n'azitwala ewa sseeka waabwe bwe baatwala nti ye sseeka waabwe yali nga mu nsonga zaabwe. N'amugamba ezo essente ze yampa ez'amahare ge takyalina kyammanja, sirina kyemmubanja, salaamu alaikum. Naye okusinziira ku Sheikh ku Dr. ky'annyonnyodde ukhulu, tewali nsonga omukazi tumuzza mu ABCD bw'aba awulira nga ki bimutamye. Nga bwe wagambye Kassim nti omukyala watuukira okugamba nti enough is enough, nga byagumidde awo. yes tetugaana n'abasajja mulimu abakyala abazibu ennyo naye bannanga omukyala wagambira nti enough is enough aba byagumiddeawo biyitirivu kati kigambo kino topic gye waleese nti obufumbo bwa kaddanyuma obulowoozaako ki oba obulaba otya Allah yamanyi byateekera abasajja ngeri gyabateekerateekera ebirowoozo byabwe obanze ku lwange nze nga hakimu ayogera I don't think nti wentuukira nange okugamba nti Yudaaya agenda I don't think nti nsobola okuddamu okugamba nti Yudaaya komawo wentuukira okukuleka ofulume mu nju yange idda zombiri idda ogimaleko ey'emyezi 3 ofulume mu nju yange which means nti ndi ku top mba ndi kuki
top ya busungu obwo kunyiibwa
kati mba sikyayinayo interest yegamba nti I'm going back no nze ku lwange nga nze eyo sigirina naye nga soogerera basajja balala kubanga abasajja abalala mulimu ayawukana n'omuntu nga tannateekinga birowoozo bye kubeera nti akikola ki yesanga bwesanzi nga ayogedde kyatandiyogedde omukazi agenze ate n'atandika okuperereza akole ki akumewo ebyo bibeerawo naye nze okusinziira ku dokita byayogedde okimanyi nti abasajja bangi bali mu bwenzi n'abakyala be balina agenda n'agamba omusajja nkutadde omukazi n'agenda ewaabwe n'amalayo emyezi 6 n'amuzzabuza n'amuzza buki kyokka nga yamugamba nkutadde vva mu nju yange n'agenda ewaabwe n'amala emyezi 6 ng'ali waabwe yamuta owulidde n'atamuwoowa n'atakola ki wabula ye n'agenda bugenzi waabwe n'aganze nonye mukazi wange ne bamugamba n'oligenda ne balo kati ssebo ebyo simanyi bwe binyonyola banansonyiwa ababikola naye nga bali mu bwenzi ate nga bangi nnyo nawano nina gwe nagamba ne mugamba please omukyala wamuta n'abeera ewaabwe for more than a year olina kumuwoowa tekisoboka ne mugamba olina kumuwoowa bw'oba tomuwooye mugenda kubeera mu bwenzi ne mukazi wo ebbanga lye munaamala nga tonnamuwoowa nagamba no omukyala teyafumbirwa ali waka yekka ne mugamba obusiraamu si bwe buti bwe bulakira.
Dr. Hafiz, you have the co-host, so we're at any point, please. You can just come in. I think Dr. Hafiz wants to raise a point.
Era njagala nnyo okumuwulira kyagamba sebo Dr. Genda Maso.
Dr. Hafiz, you can just unmute yourself straight on.
Thank you.
This is Sheikh Kamil again.
Sheikh Kassim, and to hear from you. You will excuse me, Kassim yan tricking the nante kam kogero luzungu. Nenga sebo ndi msajja Muganda.
No, it's just for the audience because now the other thing.
Audience yakutaddemu worldwide. Fetwamanyira okukola ki.
Yes, sir.
Naye ng'ebigambo byo bibadde so good. Sheikh, jazakallahu khairan.
Amina ya Rabbi.
Now,
yes. Sheikh Kassim, ngabo manyi obudde bwe Uganda nti okulyaza amanya haki z'abalala wano. That's why njagadde nzije nkole submission eno, nkole some comments. Then nja kusigala nga mpuliriza kuba bwe nayingira munda network ya Uganda ogimanyi tutega ntege.
No, my sincere appreciation.
Yeah, it's okay, but I want to make some few comments. before I could go to the listening side. One, my brother Yusuf Lubega talked about that experience. One of the reasons why actually people reunite after separation. And I gave an example whereby somebody left the spouse in Uganda, and then the other one is in the UK or is in America, and they are trying to see that they can meet each other. And then as time goes on, you find out that maybe one party feels despaired and he loses hope, and then she marries, and then after that, the reunion is made. Something that I wanted our audience to know clearly, that as long as the divorce has never been pronounced, as long as the divorce has never been pronounced, please, especially the woman or the wife, don't go ahead and contract another marriage just because of some of the bottlenecks, some of the challenges you are facing in order to meet with your husband physically. Because once Nikah is made with certainty, then that situation is presumed to continue until another certainty comes, and that is the divorce. So the fact that you have been staying far away from each other, and even you are communicating, that one shouldn't give you the leeway, shouldn't give you the permission to say, after all, simulaba, after all, is far. No, until the divorce is pronounced, because the establishment of marriage is by certainty, and therefore getting out of that status should also be with certainty. That one I wanted members to be very clear about. Number two is what facilitates a reunion. You know, when I was listening to this discussion, I remembered what we always say, that new brooms sweep better,
yes,
but the old ones know the corners. You know, sometimes the reunion comes as a result of how long did we stay in the relationship? Because as this relationship take long, the bondage is also more strengthened. That is why, by the way, sometimes you find out that people, the spouses, the married couple, started even resembling each other. You see Kayira resembling Naima, as if actually they are brothers and what? And sisters. So after that long time, especially when you have been together, and now this woman has gone and contracted another marriage, or the man has gone to contract another marriage, there are some things that you start recalling, the heydays, the way how you used to bond, so that even after 5 years, after 10 years, you say, my dear, you come so that we can remind each other the good days that we passed through. Then the second last is a comment on what my senior brother Sheikh Amlegia has just said. You know, the fiqh of marriage, understanding marriage is so important, especially within our circles as the Muslim community. We are committing many blunders, we are committing many mistakes because we don't put their effort to seek knowledge. For instance, like the scenario he has just narrated to us, even if you just bring in the issue of just a simple common sense, why should you imprison someone in a relationship that has come out clearly to say, I don't want? Otherwise, you are attracting more problems, you are attracting more danger. And that's why Islam looked at that from a distance and said, as long as she has come out and said, I'm not interested anymore, then it defeats reasoning to keep on putting her that she must stay there, she must stay there, she must stay there. Then the last one is, senior brother Makumbi talked about the situation has changed. I agree with you. And the Quranic verse, Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin Hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. Allah does not change the state of affairs of people until when they change. The question is, when people change, should we also go back and bend the law so that we can twist it to suit the current situation? No, otherwise we shall always be in amendments. People have changed, let us amend the law. No, this is calling all of us. It is a wake-up call that let us go and change ourselves to go back to the ideal. Because I think all of us are missing that ideal life. All of us are missing those days of our parents where they were patient, they were honest, they were truthful, they were sincere, and so on. So our call now, our requirement is to go back and say, you people, things have changed for worse. Let us go back to our roots. Finally, it is a call to all people who are engaged that as long as that lady, that husband is in your hand, please respect that relationship, because even if, by the way, reunion might be granted, things might not be as good as they used to be. Thank you very much, Brother Kassim, for this special invitation, and thank you so much, our dear audience.
We are actually 3 minutes now into 10 o'clock, which we should be wrapping up. Dr. Hafid, before you go, I just wanted to let you know, like, especially in Rwanda and Burundi, what happens is that there is something they call to Stiriane. It is a Kiswahili word. So a husband who is away, who is US, and the wife was left in Uganda still waiting to be recalled and brought in, will find maso bakora nayo mulimo gwawe gwagenda kubyarira abakyala b'abandi abali emeru. And what they do is just bagende bakorere service ewo gyotali, and they are called to Stiriani. So you see a woman looking, decent, comfortably walking, husband is not around, but secretively she's maintaining, and that's the only way that she's able to, continue to be there. This thing started in the late 80s, late 70s, going into the 80s, and it started mainly with truck drivers, but trailers. Yagenda nge Mombasa amala emyezi ebiri taddala kuva safari alese emboko y'omwana gwasize ekizigo vaseline wekalijjukira zasomba byonna along the way has been brought. Wife is looking really beautiful, married young because the man has money and any family that he wants, but he's away for 2 months. He comes in only 1 week and then he has to go and disappear for another 2 months. What happened then is there was the evolution of the Tustiriani, the group that comes just to be the first aiders, boy protectors. They look after your home. So now it has become a serious phenomenon. The husbands would even get to know, but it's too late again. Rukwata kanyama kali awo kakutte ne bameetera chapati omuvubuka n'alewo kaalya n'akolera omulimu w'otali. And these are dilemmas that in some instances we have to deal with, and it's part of that. So some men come back, they are frustrated. When they get frustrated now, they come in, they throw away their wives, but then when she has nothing to sustain her, she pleads to come back. Man thinks about the good times they had, brings back the woman. So those sort of remarriages have happened, but not necessarily because the problem that was there initially has been dealt with. A lot of times these men would come back, not retiring, but by the time they retire, they're sitting in vehicles that were not air conditioned, very old Fiats that they would drive those trailers as a Fiat like the Somali. Comes back, he's already got arthritis or gout from eating too much meat along the way, that is not ready. The man is unable, he's just come back to die, having a very young wife, a very young wife in the process. These are all experiences that we've had to sort of deal with. Others now introduce something that was a new phenomenon, something that probably you didn't know that you will know tonight before you leave, which is this. We had some Bazeis in Ugandan Bazeis who first went to Rwanda, who are trailer drivers. bagendanga e Rwanda ne bawasa mangu ne babuwa omukyalo wamangu abanyarwanda babeeraga barayisibwa. It would be very easy, especially nga mugaita agenda mutwala e Uganda. Uganda yabeeranga abroad y'amaanyi in those times. So the men would come ne batuuka e Butambala, abasinga baali babeera Butambala, Zigomba ne Mubulo. Bwe batuuka comes with a new bride, n'amudepositinga awaka. Naye nga mu kumudepositinga awaka amutunze kubanga wabangawo bahajji baba batava mu kyalo naye nga balina sente zaabwe z'emmwanyi. Leaves the wife at home, n'agenda n'amala those 2 months of safari. By the time they come back, ng'already amaze n'ogamba hajji ekintu ekireeseewo awo. This hajji comes home okujja okulabirira amaka ga hajji munne ali mu safari, starts bringing nice food. That's the next thing omukyala asitula. Era mu Butambala mulimu abakyala bensobola okukubalira bayitirivu abaafumbirwa as a product of that, who were brought left over by the husbands, actually almost sold off. And probably you didn't know the age of Butambala Gomba, Omunyarwanda yasesetera mu Butambala Gomba, coming in 3 waves. Waliwo abajjamu a system which were very many. There were several Hajis who were just very experienced in that. Go to Rwanda, bring a very beautiful bride, in the village 3 months, another Haji has taken her, and it would sit. Dr. Hafiz, go ahead. You have the mic. Just go ahead, please.
No. I have landed, my brother. Thank you very much.
I saw your hand coming up, but I was thinking you have. Okay, brilliant. I just thought I should give you that, but it's a thought that tonight probably.
Yes.
We can see that the possibility is there. It's just that we need to be sure that the reasons that led to the first breakup or the first divorce have been dealt with before we enter a second time. Otherwise, we might just be in a sort of a vicious cycle that continues that way. And how many times, of course, there's an expiry, especially from a religious perspective. I can only thank you very, very much, everybody who's been on tonight. I was hoping to hear from Sheikh Abdul Qadir Kawe, who went quiet, but I think, alhamdulillah, Sheikh Abdul Qadir, if you are there, as Dr. Hafid leaves to go to do Hapki elsewhere, Sheikh Abdul Qadir, I always try to make sure that I hear from the elders, especially, I mean, there are particular topics where probably for the young generation it might sound easier, for the older generation it might be difficult.
Thank you very much. But the last comment that you made about the haqq, so I think we should not keep. No,
Dr. Hafid is leaving definitely. But
Dr. Hafid, it was that long. And could I also use this opportunity to thank Dr. Hafiz for coming and for joining this conversation. It's always really good, and to hear from him, and it's always exciting. And even though I missed the bulk of his his submission, but from what I've heard from Sheikh Kamulege and the rest, I gather that it was it was good as usual. So jazakallah khairan, inshallah.
Ameen. Barakallahu fikum and Yusuf.
And Mr. Kayira, thank you for thank you for bringing such an interesting topic, and I hope all of us who have been listening have benefited, and it scared me about regarding Butambala and the women. That is the story I never knew.
But Sheikh Abdul Qadir, when I tell you that you have very serious Kinyarwanda blood, you should believe me.
That's what scared me.
You shouldn't be scared. That's not the normal phenomenon that happened over time. Our blood is very strong. Dr. Hafiz, you are free to go. I'll just take 2 more people and then we'll just also call it night, inshallah. I won't want to keep you very long. Probably I can just hear from a lady and then a gentleman, and inshallah that would be a balanced conversation tonight. Layla, you are in camp. Oh, Layla is finally here now. Yes, Layla, assalamu alaikum. Layla can do, and then I'll come to Layla.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sebo tandika kyogedde kye kyatuuka ku jjajjange. Jjajjange we Butambala ne jjange amujja Rwanda omukyala. Okubye ku mutwe.
Dr. Abdul Hafiz, those are evidence while you are still there.
Ate twakubyeza adde akubaaze kennyini. Wajjange we Butambala bamujja Rwanda bulungi. gyava lyakukyalo
abakikola bonna mbamanyi nti nebongadi naming names abagendanga eri kubanga I've documented that and I wanted to do a story before the last one amongst them nga tannafamu bwansaasire nsobole okuba kituukiriza inshallah. But it's been very interesting. Basuubula abantu basuubula kati ne jjajjaawo wuyo naye alhamdulillah yajjira ensonga gye tubadde ey'okuba is it easy?
Kyokuba nga tufumentudde bannaye nedda kinyogedde ekya ssente. Waliwo abasajja balinga abajja mufumo by mistake. Ne bajja mwavu muzibu akutwala kubonyaabonyeza ne tutambulamu. Waatereera ntukomawo.
Lwaki okkiriza okutwala? Because you have the right.
Bajja ne beegonza gitwana abazadde baleeta nti seeka omwana seeka ali bulungi n'okuba terimutwala biza ennaku nga baseeka bannaye n'otuuka nti aye n'akakiiko mu nnyumba ne bakulaga ennaku w'ogenda kyova tukomawo after few years ng'ateredde ne tukomawo ne twapulojayinga ne kale tugiddamu awo bwavu munnaye abakazi bagenda lwa bwavu.
Obwavu nga bumaze okuvaawo.
Obwavu kasita bubeerawo bannaye nga twegoba tukomawo nga muteredde.
Ajati Kenya bwe gw'omuntu omukulu barakallahu fikum Laila bwe gw'omuntu omukulu issue y'abantu okuddingana getting back into relationships.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Nagambye jjajja wange yajja n'afumbira n'azaalayo banna n'agenda mufumura n'azaalayo banna myaka gye 10-15 n'amala n'adda ate comfortably and happy. Now.
Bana naye mwebale topic eno naye waliwo ebimu bye tutasobola nabawo bye tusobola. Clip ze wasoose okututeerako omukyalo oli yagambye bwe baali basooka yali ttaani ya mwami eyaddako yali ye yakola ki?
Yasaba yayogereza
ye yaporopozinga. Kati ffe oba tukyali mu maalo oba tuli backward kuba omuwala n'avayo n'aporopozinga omusajja akirabanga what? Akirabanga is a very big deal. Ne bwe yandibadde amwagala ne lava eseeseetuka omukazi n'aporopozinga naye nga okiraba nti kiri nnomo era oli yakyogedde n'agamba nze eno yali ttaani yange. N'ekirala kye baayogeddeko baagambye nti baalaba ekimu ekiyinza okutereeza obufumbo bwabwe bakyuse eki emirimu bakyusaamu mu bye baali bakola.
Emirimu baagita oli nadda mu kulunda kapa.
Kaakati kugamba waliwo ebimu era nga ffe olaba bimu tekisoboka emirimu bwe kiba nga okirowoozezzaako ne mukiteesaako kyandibadde kirungi nnyo. Bwe kiba nga ddala divorce oba okwawukana kwammwe kugamba tulowoolezeeko ku bantu baleme okwawukana batereeze. Kati n'ekyo kiyinza okuyambako bannanga abakyali mu bufumbo ti bwe mulaba nga emirimu gye gireese kalumanywera musobola ogikyusaamu kuba byonna tuba tuyiga buyizi kati bali baatuwadde ekyokukola ti omuntu musobola okuteesa ne mukyusa mu mirimu nakyo nekiyambako laavu yammwe okweyongerayo. Kati abalala abamu abatera okukola kati jjajjaawo ogambye yafumbirwa emeka ebiri
anti yajja n'afumba eno n'azaala bana kati amala okuzaala bano bana n'agenda n'anoba n'afumbirwa abalala n'azaalayo bana n'adda eno yajja n'azaalayo akawunzika kati ate gye yakaddiira ddala.
Eno gye yasookera ddala
gye yamalira
ye yali omusajja ow'omutima gwe. Bali abalala yali agezesaamu bugezesa. Abasinga obungi abakola kaddannyuma omanyi most likely we love once.
Really?
Yeah. Omusajja muyinza akwagala ne bitabuka era abo bonna bolaba bakola kaddannyuma oyo yabeera lava w'omutima gwe rio nga ne bwagenda eri n'agenda yamuleka wano yamuleka UK n'agenda e Germany n'agenda e Canada n'alaga omutima gwasigala eno
nga guli muloko
guli mulooka alinda bulinzi atereere akomewo. Abantu ekyo ensonga lwaki bakola kaddannyuma be baba balaava b'omitima gyabwe era bw'oba otunulamu most of the time abamu babeera beeyagalira mu masomero. Kati ng'olabye ono ow'abaana akugambye beeyagalira mu masomero felong ne kijja ne bafuna abaana be baleeta taabu. Ate era nze ndowooza nti kakati naddala nga kazina ensi ebyabakozi tiwaliwa obalaba basulanga batunula akutteko omwana yakutteko omubooleka boolesa ekiro kyonna omusajja ne byomutama naye nga omwami yeyali omukyala yeyali tayagala nabaawukane ye yeyali baw'omutima gwe era bwe yagamba nti akomawo teyakaluba biveni baateekinga omwaka gumu naye ng'ebiseera ebisinga we love once oyo baw'omutima gwo oba omukyala gwokwanye oba nga muli bato oba yoyo gw'osobola okuddingana era biseera ebisinga tunula nnyo olabe bwe baba baddira be baasooka gye bamalira kuba be baba babba emitima gyabwe oli afumbirwa kizibu nnyo ga nti yafumbira obufumbo bwasooka ne bugaana n'afumbira obwokubiri ne bugaana n'agenda mu bwokusatu naye bwe yabadde akomawo yakomyewo mu bwakubiri badda mu bwasooka kuba yebalooku ye yabba omutima gwe.
Barakallahu fikum, HIJJA. And actually that brings us to the end of tonight's conversation. Some reunions have been very interesting. There are times when people break up, they divorce, but they've had children. Children grow up at the time of getting married or graduation. Parents start having a conversation about ultimately some relationships have come back just through that. 15, 20 years later, these people get back. There's nothing wrong. At least as long as love exists, there shouldn't be anything that gets in the way of that particular love. I can only thank you very much for a beautiful night that we have had. Alhamdulillah. I hope you have something to take away tonight. Inshallah, let's meet next week, Tuesday. This is Kassim Kayira with Calm Let's Talk with Kassim Kayira, live on 75W Radio, live on Ummah Connected, and we're on Facebook, we're on Zoom, and we were on YouTube where we are streaming live. We thank you very much. Hope to see you next week, inshallah, with another interesting topic. I can only thank you so much for the time you've made. Tuesday, the 19th of July, hottest day on record in the United Kingdom. 38 degrees in Newcastle, 41 degrees in London. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Ufa, tulinga abali Makka wano.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hafsa, wasirikiddeyo nga mayinza kukoona afuna last word, but then you disappeared.
Mujje mu America tujja bakulinga down mu abaka abahit.
Sijja cooling ngambe ebyokudde ebyakadda